which is already available on YouTube. It's the Gaslighting series, part 1, 2, and 3. So that is the emotional abuse segment series, and I think I also had that on Anchor, but I had to figure out how to do the Anchor on the computer. I think one of the reasons why I have actually procrastinated on doing this is because I have been dabbling with the idea of upgrading my entire system so that I can have um better technology. So I've been putting certain things off so that I don't have to or I don't need to really pay attention to those things. But I'm probably going to be, putting it together piece by piece, bit by bit as we move on because it's important for us to do that. So I'm going to have this little music playing in the background so it makes me feel a little bit more like, things are going on, things are happening while they're really not happening. Shout out to my friend Karen. She's my Sunday night date. We usually kick in and hang out, but, we're not going to be doing that until a few weeks. But shout out to Karen if she ever watches this. She doesn't speak English, but, it's still good to shout her out and give her some props and love. Peace. So getting into the topic of don't save her, she does not want to be saved. Y'all, I know that this is a very sensitive topic. It is very personal and dear to my heart because I am a survivor of abuse, emotional and physical, and I really hate talking about it from the perspective to make people think like they need to feel sorry for me or like, I was just this person that was in a bad situation. Um, but I will say that I have a lot of empathy for women who are in who are currently in or have ever experienced this kind of reoccurring type of relationship dilemma. Oh, I don't think this is gonna play on YouTube, but anyways, just a little concern there. Adjust my little notes real quickly. So I made some notes on this because the title is "Don't Save Her. She doesn't want to be saved," and that's the ugly side of something that people feel like that's the bottom line. That's why women, or men, um, end up in the situation that they end up in, where they are in an abusive situation. I'm gonna link the website links. I'm gonna link the links to the places where I've gotten the information that I gotten on this topic, so you guys can research it for yourself and look at some of the details. And I just wanted to bring them up. Some of them overlap. I went to 3 different websites, and some of them have like just one word, and some of them have phrases and sentences. So we're gonna go through these different points as to why women stay in the situation, to address and even review some of what's being said. So the first one is from joinonelove.org. Okay. So, society normalizes unhealthy relationships, so people may not understand that their relationship is abusive. That is 100% true. 100%. If you listen to music, movies, and even a lot of like advertising promotes dysfunctionality as a way of normal living life. People get the idea. I've even had this conversation with my own child, my eldest daughter, who is of dating age. She's getting into that stage where she's experimenting with relationships and figuring out the type of guys she wants to be around. And this has come up several times where I have said, this is a red flag, and she's like, that's just the way it is. That's a part of relationships. And it gave me reason for pause, because I was just thinking like, did I give you that? Did I give you that impression that that's like a normal way of being? Like, is this my fault? And she's just like, no, it's just the way it is. Like, I don't know where I got it from. I just think that's just the way it is. But if you listen to music, I don't have any like music examples right here because I'm just so sick and tired of all the censorship that I didn't even bother to like think about any of that. But yeah, if you listen to a lot of rap music, pop music, even some of the stuff um, that is promoted these days, like it's very much into the music that yeah, this is the way it is. Whereas art is imitating life, it's almost like life is imitating art, if that makes sense. So, emotional abuse destroys your self esteem, making it impossible to start fresh. I wouldn't say it is impossible, but it definitely makes it absolutely difficult. And maybe if you haven't been in a situation and you're like, don't save her, she doesn't want to be saved. If you're coming from that place, I'll tell you right now, if you are not confident in your ability to find something better, this is definitely going to hold true for thinking that there is better than what you're experiencing right now. I talk in great depth in about that in my gaslighting series, because you actually get to a point in your relationship where you are so emotionally distraught that you question everything that you do, part in part because something is going on in your interaction that you are slowly internalizing. And you're internalizing it because you're allowing this person to treat you this way, but you don't know that it's an allowance and not like I don't have a choice kind of a situation. And a lot of people, when I say that, say, "Yehin, Handa, you're victimizing the victim here. You know, what is she gonna do? She can leave." But the other point that comes up next, which is in note 3 of the first website that I visited, was the cycle of abuse. After every abusive incident comes a makeup honeymoon phase. So the honeymoon phase really confuses young women, really confuses the person involved, because you get to think that this person is going to be like this all the time, and that there is uh, okay, yeah, you feel like, okay, this person is, it's good now, and then if it's good now, then that means that it's never going to happen again, and if it's never going to happen again, that means that, you know then we can finally move forward. And that's not the way it works. You move forward for a little while, but the honeymoon phase usually, quote unquote, makes up. It makes up for the for the abuse, so to speak. Right? So you kind of forget that you were just in a really bad situation. They go over the top. They do all of these things. They're making up, and they're genuinely, maybe even genuinely sorry in the honeymoon phase, and they talk about this and that and the other, and just changing. So that really makes it also very confusing for people who are considering leaving. The other thing about leaving, which is the next point, is that it's dangerous to leave. I remember one time I was trying to leave, and this person like broke all of the windows in my house, and I had a pretty big home, and I had like these half wall windows, so it's about 4 feet tall in the downstairs part of the house. And he took a baseball bat and broke all of the windows, one by one by one by one. That's emotional intimidation. I mean, he didn't take the baseball bat and break my face, but he broke things that were dear to a part of something that was dear to me. So that gave me the indication, or it was meant to give me the indication that I'm in a dangerous situation, and if I want to escalate it and never coming back, I can expect to be hurt or more of this kind of behavior. You're basically pissing this person off, and it can create a sense of volatility that is unstable for you and unstable for the person that you're involved with. Um, so it's hard to break off the situation and be safe, and escape the cycle of control. So that's the second part. I'm sorry, we are now at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is it's just hard to break off safely, and it's also hard to escape the cycle of control. Because people who are abusers put things in place to maintain that culture of abuse, and a lot of that has to do with a cycle of control, so that they are the one that dictate what you do, when you do it, how you do it, where you do it, by mind games or taking away documents or financial freedoms that you normally have in order to have more of a support group outside of them. And so that's 100% true. Society perpetuates a ride or die mindset. Yeah, I remember listening to the interview, the first of many Will Smith Jada Pinkett interviews, where she and him sit down and have a powwow about her entanglement. Ladies and gentlemen, I am in no way, shape, or form judging either one of the Smiths. I think they've done a lot of great things, but it did send off alarms in my head when it was just like she was saying things like entanglement, like no, you, anyways, you know, yeah, and then they bumped fists by saying ride or die, bad marriage for life, like really, that then people are saying that and thinking, whoa, okay, well, if I'm unhappy, that's normal. Like the number one thing in my relationship is that we stay together no matter what, no matter how unhappy he is or I am. You just got to stay together. You don't deserve happiness. This is just a part of how it is. And no matter what, we got to stay together. No matter how much I hurt this person or this person hurts me, we've got to stay together. And I think that that's a very bad mindset to have. I think that relationships are meant to be enjoyable for the people who are in them and around them. So if you're not happy, of course, it's just not that simple to just pack up your stuff and leave. But I mean, the ultimate good, what is the alternative? Like, what is the alternative for the ultimate good? So they feel personally responsible for their partner or their behavior. This is a really, really, this is a complicated one. All right, because yes, there is a level of responsibility that needs to be taken because you're in a situation that you willingly got into. In most cases, I would say it's either a wife and a husband, um, or boyfriend and girlfriend, 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 boyfriend, boyfriend. It's usually a situation of two people who have willingly come together under some pretenses or another, with the understanding that they care for each other. Now, sometimes we do things that we know are going to trigger a certain kind of response. And this is in no way, shape, or form saying that, you deserved it or it's your fault. Nobody should be hitting anyone if it's physical. Emotional abuse, it's really complicated. This is going to be a complicated one because there are different layers and levels of interacting with people that self-awareness allows us to understand about our situation, and we participate on some level because it is like the don't save her, she doesn't want to be saved, where a person, women, let me speak specifically to women, feels like this is the way relationships are supposed to be. That goes back to mindset. So they participate in their own demise because it gives them some kind of sick pleasure, because it reinforces a part of them, a part of us that says I am undeserving of something else, whatever that something else may be. A lot of the times you'll find or hear women say that if he doesn't treat me a certain way, he's a simp or he's soft or so they equate the way of men being to acting a certain way or with a certain level of aggression. And so if he doesn't act like that, they will aggravate that kind of feeling. This is very, that is entanglement. Because that statement, I don't know, guys, I could pick that apart in so many different situations. And so if you are so far agreeing with identifying with any one of these outside of this one where I'm at right now, they feel personal responsibility for their partner's behavior, or their behavior. Yeah, you do have a sense of responsibility, and if that means if that means that I'm going to come across as someone who is victimizing the victim, I'm going to take on that um that level of crucifixion, because Easter time being said, we all have our crosses to bear, and they are based on some of the things that we have allowed to take place. And that's great. That's a great place to be, where you feel like you have the sense of ability to acknowledge that you participated in your own demise, because then at least when you acknowledge that you participated in, at least then you have the possibility to change the outcome. You have the possibility to change the outcome because you put yourself in this situation so you can get yourself out. It's not going to be easy, and of course, you know, it's hard to start over. It is hard to not think that the honeymoon phase is going to last forever. It is hard to think about the dangers of leaving when a person who is prone to violence, and if you leave, you get them very violent. And it is hard to acknowledge that it's not normal to have this kind of behavior. Then what else is there for you in a relationship? How else am I supposed to be if I'm not supposed to be this way? That's work for the woman. And so I don't believe personally that there are any victims, in the sense that, okay, um, that I am this way. I'm just a person, regular, who just got in a bad way. I believe that this is a very special kind of learned behavior that we sometimes we are very, very aware is not normal, but we don't know what the alternative is, and so we just participate in it because we're just lazy, and it's easier to be the victim than it is to be the person in charge of their own lives. And that can apply to anything. It's not just relationships, but particularly when it comes to um, abuse, there's a certain level of perversion in getting sympathy, to feel like there's a bad guy and a good guy, and I'm the good guy because I'm not the one doing these things. So it's a self crucifixion. And this is very, very much a part of violence and abuse, or IPV, that women and men, or people in general in society, don't necessarily want to talk about. I'm going to talk about it because I will definitely say that for a long time, I was that person that was just like, yeah, he hit me. He's bad. I'm the victim. Pity me. And then we have something to talk about, because so many women go through this kind of thing. So then I feel connected through the abuse to those around me, and people feel sorry for me, and they don't think that there's anything wrong with me. But there is something wrong with me, because I picked this person. And you tell that to an abuse survivor, and they will eat you alive. I have the bite marks. Trust me. It's been done. It can be done. You can leave. It's going to be okay, so they believe if they stick it out, things may change. That is true. People think that if they stick it out, things are going to change because they love the person. Hey, they think that they can love by example and then therefore get the love in return. Yeah. Yes, even in 2022, people really believe that that's going to work like that, but it doesn't. So there's a social pressure to be in a perfect relationship. A fear. Yeah, I think that the first time my husband and I got into an argument in public, I was so embarrassed, and it wasn't even because of the argument. It was because we were arguing in front of other people. That was just like, I don't ever want to be in that situation again. I want people to think that my relationship was perfect. Once I embraced the fact that we argue, and that we argue over sometimes stupid things, and that our relationship is not perfect, but it works, and it's good, and it's getting better. And it's getting better because we are not perfect, and we can celebrate our good things and stuff. The pressure was off, and we can just be who we are. But there's so much pressure to just put yourself out there. And I want to say, because, men and women can get really complicated. These things are not as cut and dry as they may come across to be all the time. Outside of violence, of course. sometimes you add pressure by putting your relationship out there for the world to judge. And we do that when we present ourselves in such a way like, I'm the boss, my husband's perfect, and we never argue, and my kids are amazing. When people see cracks and flaws, they discredit you, and you can get yourself discredited. And it also, keeping up pretenses disallows you the opportunity to really look at the places where you can improve, accept the things that you have no control over, and recognize what it is that's really bothering you and how to really fix it. Or um yeah, but she is gonna be the abuser. No. To really fix it, or to really, examine yourself in a realistic way to say, okay, this is not working. I'm not perfect, and this is far from perfect, and I want to get out of this. Or, it's not that bad, but yeah, we do have our issues and we're working on them. Or we have our issues. So what are those issues? So we can work on them. It's also a good thing too. Um, yeah, so that was the first page. I know. So fear of how others will react. They share a life together. Superficial reasons, right? We share a life together. We have kids, we have an apartment. This is one of the worst things that you can do as somebody who has lived with somebody, or as somebody that has been married twice. If you share a life with somebody that you're not entirely sure about, that is entanglement. Okay, so let's move on. Distorted thoughts. Yeah. So you're confused. Normally, the times that you have spent with this person have been great, and then bam, they come with some crazy shit like, I don't want to be with you, emotionally abusing you, calling you about your name, or hitting you, and this is just not the person that you met. So there's a level of confusion and a stage of confusion that happens. It's like, what is this? I don't understand what to do. But before you can come to your senses, you're back in the honeymoon phase. So you're really the more times this has happened in this cycle, the more confused one person can become about what's real and what's not. And another person, this other side also said damage to self-worth. Yeah, as a fear, yes, fear of leaving definitely is possible. Wanting to be a savior. This is what I call, this is the victimizing the victim complex. Is that victimizing the victim? Does that make sense? I want to say that wanting to be the savior is this good and bad feeling. Like, okay, this person is, I want to help them to not be broken because they're needing me. This is a sign of codependency. And so it reeks of feeling better about yourself because you're the victim and this person is the perpetrator. And that's very perverse. Like, if you've been in a relationship, an abusive relationship, and you felt at any point in time that you stayed because you were so sanctimoniously good, then I would really consider therapy. Because I've done this. I've done this where I would tell the story to justify just really being a shitty girlfriend. I mean, we were both not good people for each other or on a whole, so neither one of us needed to be in a relationship. But then add on top of that, me feeling like I needed to be this good person to help them out of whatever funk they were going through, is a very fine line between being a savior and just being a supportive person. Because this kind of behavior exempts the person who is perpetrating abuse of accountability, which is super important in every relationship. Accountability is paramount when relating to other people, because you can identify. Self-awareness is sexy, guys. Identify what it is you bring to the table that's good and bad, so that you know what you have control over, and so you can give people back their issues. Being a savior is not going to work unless it's like your job. You shouldn't be counseling. If you're a counselor and you're trying to counsel your abusive relationship, the person you're in an abusive relationship with, that is unethical, because you're not supposed to do that. And you should know that because they tell you that. Even lawyers can't defend people that they know. Come on now. Well, I think it depends on the state, but you get my point. When you're too close to a situation, you're not the person to be looking to for advice. You can't save them. They don't want to be saved. Don't save them. They don't want to be saved. Don't save them. Family expectations and experiences. Yeah, I've heard this a lot. Like, why do your family tell you to be with a person that is abusive to you? Like, they be, yeah, oh yeah, no, I can't get into that this time, but I will. If y'all want to hear more about that, please let me know. Children, of course. This is a very, very sad one because when you are in a relationship with somebody who is abusive and you have children seeing this, you want to actually be doing the opposite of staying with them because it's bad and it messes up the children for life. Like they will become psychologically and emotionally damaged forever. And I've seen this personally, not anecdotally. I've read the statistics. It's better for you to just figure something else out because that's damaging. It's beyond damaging. Um, yeah, learning disabilities, mental health issues, the list goes on and on. Financial constraints. Yeah, if you find yourself not being able to move around, and I know we are all in different financial situations, and sometimes money can be really tight. Um, but if a person's not making enough money or is not living up to your financial expectations, and that is the source of a lot of bitter arguments, then that's definitely something that needs to be examined. That can possibly easily be fixed if we have less expectations. But if a person is prone to violence anyway, there's no fixing this because they're already aware that they're falling short and not able to do the things that they need to do to provide for their family, and they're going to take it out on you when they really need to be examining themselves. Isolation. My personal favorite, because I've experienced it myself, is being far away from family members, support groups, or churches. A common tactic in a manipulative partners is to separate the victim from family and friends. Sometimes this is physical, as one woman experienced. I was literally trapped in the backwoods of a WV, and he would use my little boy to keep me close. Other times, isolation is emotional. As one woman told, you can either have the family, or you can have the friends, or you can have me. If you guys have watched Maid, you will see how he did that. It was very subtle. Whew, yeah, I was literally stuck on an island once. That was not happy times. Although these 8 reasons for staying are common, they do not describe every victim and situations. Um, Emotional isolation is a pretty interesting one because if you were in a situation where you're like, hey, let's go out or let's go out with friends, and you find that you and your partner never socialize with your friends or any friends at all, red flag. Something's wrong. If you're not able to visit with family, stay in touch with your family, be around your family, red flag. Look, and also, some people don't have mother-in-laws and family that they want to be around. So, be a little bit discreet with this one. Emotional isolation, again, check out gaslighting because this is a major part of a gaslighting technique where you feel like you're interacting with this person in social situations and you're emotionally isolated because they keep taking jabs at you or making certain comments that only you can understand in the context, and you feel yourself always feeling socially awkward when you're with them, so you just avoid social situations with them. Also a red flag. Although these 8 reasons are staying for staying are common, they do not describe every victim situation. Women can also be perpetrators, and they are many patterns of violence. Yet these posts provide compelling insider view of the difficulties in making decisions of violence in a violent relationship, and this is helpful for others to understand. One reason many victims hesitate to speak up is because they are afraid of being judged and pressured by friends and professionals. Even professionals judge people on this. I did not speak out on my relationship for a long time because people were embarrassed for me. People were embarrassed for me. People in my family were embarrassed that I had ended up in such a situation. Come to find out, a lot of women in my family have experienced this situation. Um, and so we need to have a certain level of accountability in our relationships that can transfer over into us having more quality, healthy interactions with each other. And I think acknowledging that there is a problem is a big step into the right direction. And I want to be able to have more conversations about this. So these points here have been very helpful for me. I don't know what you guys think about them. But my last set of points are pretty much a reiteration. But the last, let's see, lack of resources sounds a lot like financial restraint. Shame. A lot of people are ashamed. Yeah. The shaming and deflecting are pretty much the same. Like they want to change the topic or not admit it because they feel like there's something wrong with them, that they ended up in the situation that they ended up in, because people like to victimize the victim. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Don't save her. Cultural context. Immigration status. And yeah, I kind of like those two as well. Immigration status and cultural context. All right. You have to understand, no disrespect to anybody out there who belongs to either one of these cultures. It is more common in Latin culture, Latin American culture, to have this kind of behavior prevail. Not everybody is like that, but it is common that men are like that. Um, I've talked to a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of men in Latin culture who would speak to me on why it is that they find themselves. Men have actually said this to me, played up and strained. I beat her because of this or that or the other. Why? You know? Substance abuse is usually a very big issue behind this, or specifically to Latin American culture, alcohol abuse doesn't bring out the best in people, but it's not an excuse. And so I remember encouraging a friend of mine to get help, to go to AA and I'm really proud of him, man. Shout out to him for getting his act together. But substance abuse is cultural contextually one of the main reasons why you will see a lot of cultural abuse or, domestic abuse in certain cultures being more prevalent, is because it's more accepted. Um, Recently I've been talking to a lot of Middle Eastern women who are here in Germany, and it's the same thing. Is it okay? Absolutely not. But men will say anything, like it's in the Quran. It is what it is, and it's supposed to be that way. But yeah, cultural context usually has a major role to do with how widely accepted, how normalized abuse is. So I'd like to say that normalizing abuse has a cultural context to it, and that needs to be highly considered into a woman's willingness to stay, because there are various degrees, I think, in how much abuse takes place. Like, it's my right to discipline my woman versus I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I say. And there are many variations in between, but it's just not a thing to do. It's not a thing to do. Fighting is not a thing to do. So none of these are excuses. It is what it is in terms of the feedback from people who have experienced abuse. I'm not calling them victims, because no, we're not going to do that, because that plays too much into shame. And one of the reasons why a lot of women don't speak on abuse that they've experienced is because of the self-esteem issue and the shame, which kind of go hand in hand, right? I have spoken for 35 minutes or more without even taking a breath. Whew. And it is what it is, man. But I would like to add to this, the last one, love. Yeah, LOVE, love. If a man came to you right now and told you, I'm going to pop you upside your head, what would you do? You'd call the police, naturally. But if your husband, whom you loved and build a life with, or your boyfriend, who you've been committed to, and who you've been with and have had experiences with and survived things through, did something so atrocious, you would definitely 100% consider the possibility that it is a one-time thing. Because this isn't just some bum off the street or some random stranger. This is a person whom you are emotionally committed to. That, for me, is the number one reason why leaving is super hard the first time. Because you're still struggling with the idea that your love is stronger than the abuse. It's not, because the person who is abusive can't really love you. They don't really love themselves. And they have a greater problem, which is handling their emotions in a way that is constructive and productive. And they're hurting and they need a professional to help them. Unfortunately, most abusers, hang on a second, let me check this out. What percentage of abusers actually get help? I'm going to ask this question. What percentage of abusers change? Do abusers ever change, or do they stay their way forever? I would go with forever. Okay, let me go back to the help. The help hotline says a lot of stuff. My God, just give me the answers, man. Okay. This Google thinks that I'm being abused, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Nobody's online right now, so Jesus. Okay, while people do have the capacity to change, they need to want to change. Most people don't want to change because that has to do with accountability. And just like most women in abusive situations don't want to be accountable for the fact that they picked the partner that they picked, most men who batter do not want to accept that they are the ones who are losing their temper. I didn't read that, I'm just saying that. Got it. Can abusers change? While people do have the capacity to change, they need to want to change. In discussing why abusers abuse, it's clear that a lot of casual factors behind these abusers are learned attitudes and feelings of entitlement and privilege. So if you're feeling entitled, that's a hard pressed thing to change, which can be extremely difficult to truly change. Because of this, there is a very low percentage of abusers who truly do change their ways. One part of changing may involve an abuse partner be willing to attend a certified batter intervention program and focus on their behavior. At Hotline, we don't recommend couples counseling, anger management, substance abuse programs, or mental health treatments for abusers to learn about. Okay, so this is what's recommended. They have to admitting the full what they've done, stop excusing or blaming, making amends, accepting per responsibility and recognizing that abuse is a choice, identifying patterns of control behavior they use, identifying attitudes that drive their abuse, accepting that overcoming abusive is a decades-long process, not declaring themselves cured. 10 years. So if you're like a doctor, if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, and when you're in your 40s, it's about the same amount of time. So carrying your weight and sharing power, changing how they respond to their partners or former partners' anger and grievances, changing how they act in a heated conflict, accepting the consequences of their actions, including not feeling sorry for themselves about consequences and not blaming their partner or children for them. So sounds like a lot of work, guys, right? Right? Sounds almost impossible, right? Right? It's very difficult, but it's not impossible. But unfortunately, the amount of people who actually change from abusers to to non-abusers is very, very low. I hope you guys have been happy. You guys have enjoyed this content. I will see you guys again next week where we're actually going to be interviewing someone. I don't know who yet. Keep yourself posted on my Instagram page, and I will be announcing that shortly. Bye.